sense in what he's saying when you think about where today's Democratic Party is and where the American people are today.
2020 contender New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio calling the frontrunner Joe Biden totally out of touch. Well, the former vice president himself making news tonight, now saying he opposes a measure that blocks your tax dollars from funding abortions. Well, the change comes after the left nearly unanimously condemned him for maintaining that long-held position. Let's debate it now with host of Left Coast News, Ethan Behrman, and host of the brand new Guy Benson Show. It is Guy Benson. Welcome to you both.
Hey, Shannon.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, so the Hyde Amendment, which essentially blocks in almost every case federal taxpayer dollars from funding abortions, has been around for a long time. And just to remind people, a lot of people have actually voted against it. Politico's playbook says, guess who else has voted against federal funding for abortion? They say because of the Hyde language attached to a number of funding bills. Warren voted for this bill twice. So did Michael Bennet, Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, Eric Swalwell, and others. Bernie Sanders voted no. Now, Guy, it's a little bit different coming out and saying you support it versus voting for it because it's attached to something else. They've been highly critical of him, though, and it took him 24 hours to change his position.
Well, this is a flip now from Joe Biden in the last few days on this very issue. After holding the position in favor of the Hyde Amendment, which is a mainstream, majority-supported position in this country for decades, and I think for people who are saying, oh, Biden's going to be in that centrist lane, he's not going to cave to the left, well, this was a major, major cave job on one of the very few sort of truce issues that we have on abortion, not forcing taxpayers to pay for them. This is where the Democratic Party is headed. They basically support abortion on demand through all of pregnancy, paid for by taxpayers. It's a totally radical position, and now Joe Biden has adopted it, and it's sad.
Well, I mean, Ethan, he was unique in holding this position, and a lot of folks have said, listen, he's trying to remain more centrist. He feels good about a shot at winning the, primary so that he can then go into the general election and have some appeal to the middle, which, either candidate's going to have to get some of those people in order to get over the finish line. What do you think ultimately made him change his mind here?
Well, I think it's really clear that he's going to get some of those middle voters, and the radical change is actually the conservatives right now in states like Georgia and Missouri and elsewhere who are essentially canceling abortion and doing everything they can to overturn both Roe and Casey.
Because as Guy said, and we had a poll on last night, that the majority of Americans, regardless of party, do not want taxpayer dollars used to fund abortion. So aside from the limiting access, we're talking about taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, and this is a change, right? So exactly to your point that you brought up, and that is in reaction to what is happening that the left and many of us feel is an attack on women's rights. So the reaction is we need to make sure that we're making it available and not saying just because you're on the low end of the economic scale, you're not going to have it available to you. So in the states that are left, you saw Governor Newsom here in California speak up just the other day saying, women, if you're having trouble getting the abortion in the state you live in, come to California. This is a reaction to the attack that we are seeing from the right in those other states.
Okay. The Hill, under the headline, Biden faces first crisis as frontrunner, said this: Biden's embrace of the Hyde Amendment, prohibiting federal funds from being used for abortion, combined with a new plagiarism controversy, have created the most challenging week for the Democratic frontrunner since he entered the race. So, Guy, the Hyde Amendment is now over for him. Still, the plagiarism issue is going on.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
He could flip back. Yeah, we'll wait another 24 hours and see what happens. Maybe wait till the general election if he gets that far. If it's back to being a difficult decision between the woman and her doctor and not also involving taxpayers. We'll see.
Okay, so what about the issue of plagiarism?
I feel like this is sloppy staff work in this particular case, which is not a good look necessarily for him. I don't think it's a terrible problem, except for the fact that he was dogged by this issue in 1988. So it sort of brings back that memory, which I think raises questions about his preparedness to run in this race. It seems like his staff and his team has been holding him back. He hasn't been mixing it up with journalists almost at all. He's been sort of limited on rope lines and that sort of thing. They're playing, it looks like, prevent defense, and it's not even, it's not even kickoff yet. They haven't had a debate yet, so it's an odd strategy.
Ethan, a bit of an unforced error, just knowing that because of his past, there's going to be a lot of, digging into everything he says and does.
Yeah, and when you're the front runner, I mean, every little mistake is magnified. That's what's happening right now. Actually, to Guy's point, I think he's right. It was an unforced error by some staff. This is clearly a group of think tanks that they were plagiarizing from that are already on the same team, essentially. They just didn't give credit where credit was due. It's an unforced error, and we're not even going to remember it next week.
Well,
but he is the front runner, so we're going to pay attention to every mistake.
A lot of people call quoting things without giving credit plagiarism. So we'll see as it continues. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being with us.
You bet.
Thanks, Shannon.